Thank you, and good evening to you all. My name is Laksh. I'm 27, and I write stories. I spent all of my Thursday, which was yesterday, on a plane, on two planes, traveled about 10,000 miles to come and speak to you for 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Oh, this is my pleasure. I did this willingly because I really do love this campus. I come back about once a year, and I also wanted to come here because right now in India it's really, really, really hot. I miss being here. This is less than half the temperature. No, it is.
Wow.
So don't come to India in June. But this campus really has been a big part of my journey as a storyteller. My first short story that I ever wrote, my first piece of fiction or nonfiction that I ever wrote was because of the Cat 2 class. And I didn't want to give the final. It was an essay, and I don't like writing about things that other people tell me to write about. That's why I write for myself. So I asked the professor, could I write a short story instead? And he said, it better be good. And I said, okay, and I got a B+. So it's a good day. I also taught my first class here. I used to be a lecturer at San Diego State, but I taught my first class here when I was still a senior. And that's a different story. I'll tell you later. And one of my stories, actually, that I published last year, it's called She Versus Him. And it's about these two kids who come to college on day one and they meet, and it's a boy and girl, and you control their story. It's an interactive read. And you control their life over the 4 years. And I set the story on this campus because I missed it, and I was sitting in India and I missed it. So I set an entire story here. So it's really important to me that I was welcome back, and I really appreciate it. I've published in the past 3 years about 48 stories. They've been read by over 500,000 people all over the world. And I also run a company, as Provost said, called Launchora, which is a storytelling platform for young writers from all over the world to come and share their stories and to feel safe and to be understood and to be heard. We have a little self-promotion. It's free to use. We have a premium subscription for readers. It's $9 a year, ridiculously cheap, even if you're a recent grad. So you can check it out. Okay, end of self-promotion. The entire first page is self-promotion. So I don't like telling people I'm a writer, but it makes introductions easier because when people ask me what I write about, I give them a part truth and a part lie. I tell people I write about life and love, which is really, it's a happy thing to say, it's a positive thing to say. It doesn't make people uncomfortable. But in front of you today, I want to admit something I haven't admitted before. What I really write about is fear. And because I'm a writer and I'm used to titling everything that I write, the title for this speech is Love and Fear. Because I think that if you look at your life with a broader view, which I'm guessing is graduates now, you're looking at it right now, you're looking at your career, you're thinking about your life, you're thinking about finals a little bit, you're thinking about your life. You can put everything into two columns, what I love and what I fear. Now, we'll come back to that in a few. Now, here's a hypothesis. Your life is a multiple choice story. Whether it's your love life or your professional life, you're always making choices. And when you're young, the questions are a lot easier, the choices have far less serious consequences. And as you grow older, you think that the choices are only increasing. And you don't have as much time anymore. You end up taking longer and longer to decide because you have more information to process. And the stakes are getting harder and harder. And spoiler alert, as you get older, this only keeps on happening more and more, but eventually choices kind of feel like they're disappearing. And at that point, you try to hold on to them as much as you can. They still keep on floating away. And it's at that moment that you realize that you're not really making these choices. These choices are the ones that are making you who you are. Now, here's a proposition to that hypothesis. Choose the right questions. If you choose the right questions, you can control the choices. Now, we're all in 6th college, and which means we're part of a college that didn't even name itself yet. So when you see a question and you see 5 choices on it and you don't like any of them, dig deeper because you are the 6th choice. And that 6th choice is none of the above. None is before. So when you have the opportunity to, and sometimes when you have the privilege to, be none is before and be none of the above. Because like me, something what I did, if you try to do something that hasn't been done before, the worst case scenario is that you'll end up learning something new out of it. When I was asked to come to speak here, my first thought wasn't that I have to be on a plane for a day and then have to be extremely jet lagged. What I really thought about was, have I accomplished enough? Because that is one of my fears. Not achieving enough, not doing enough with my life, with the opportunities that I've been given. So, but the thing is that if I wasn't afraid, I would have been pretty happy. And that doesn't mean I'm not happy. I'm sufficiently happy. But my fear stops me from enjoying that happiness until a certain point. Because my fear asks me, what will you do next? Who will you be next? What will you create next? My parents named me Lakshya, which literally means aim or purpose. So at a very young age, I had this self-created pressure to achieve something, to have a purpose, to have an aim. And that pressure led me to creativity, because it was a form of self-expression. And I think that creativity is about finding what you're afraid of and turning it into something that you love. Now here's a quote from an episode of Doctor Who, which is the greatest TV show ever made. And it's about fear. It says, fear is a superpower. Fear can make you faster and cleverer and stronger. Because if you're very wise and very strong, fear doesn't have to make you cruel or cowardly. Fear can make you kind. And I think, this is the quote's over, I think that your fear is your fuel. In order to understand it, you have to find out where it comes from. When I try to understand my fears, one of the things that pops up is that one of my fears is uncertainty. So I did a different approach. I didn't want to be afraid of my fears. So I tried to fall in love with it. I tried to fall in love with uncertainty. I run a business that no one had tried before. No one had believed in before. But I still wanted to try it out because it was something new and got me excited. So I fell in love with my fears, and instead of giving it the power, and instead of making it a weakness, I made it my power. Now, the thing is that for me, I need to write. It's how I fix myself when I break. It is the glue that binds me together. So I would encourage you to find that glue for yourself. Fall in love with that glue if you can. Give it your heart, give it your gut, and most importantly, if you can, give it your mind. Now, because I overwrote this speech on the plane, here are some quick pieces of advice from what I've already done. 15 second startup advice. Try to get as far as you can with your idea or product without needing other people's money. Because if someone else's hard-earned money is a requirement for you to even start your product, you don't deserve their money yet. 15-second writing advice. Write down every single weird thought you have. You know that sometimes your brain has this thought and you feel like, where did this darkness come from in my head? Write it down. That's how everything I write happened. Because someday that voice could become a character. And someday maybe that voice could help other people going through something similar. But look, you don't have to listen to me. That's not a requirement. You're going to be graduates, you don't have to listen to anyone anymore. But these speeches are supposed to be inspirational and motivational. So I'm going to give you a couple takeaways from characters I've written who have said some things that I think I'm proud of writing them. And they're smarter than me and they're more accomplished than me because I've wanted them to be that. So here's the first one. Problems are like milestones on a highway. You can see them coming and getting bigger and bigger, and at one point they are right there in your face. But then you pass them. You leave them in the rearview mirror. Then they're small again until they're gone. And that's when you realize that the next milestone is already coming. This is a cycle. This will never stop. But what that does mean is that you have to not live your life milestone to milestone. That's the first one. The next one is a little more positive. Time is like the airport. It is like a means of transportation, taking you from where you were to where you want to go. You can be early, you can be delayed, or you can be stuck, not knowing where you're going. But as long as you know where you're going, it will eventually get you there. And this one is my favorite. The other two are also my favorite, but there you go. I pick it between my children. There are two kinds of people in this world. Those who want someone's phone number, and those whose phone number everybody wants. Think about it. Here are a couple quotes in progress, which means that I don't know what they mean yet. I haven't written them, I haven't published them, so I'm trying this out. The first one is, it's very short, it's a thinker. You'll have to think about it after finals. Life is like a malfunctioning escalator. That's it. The second one. We are the Jon Snow generation. Everybody keeps telling us we know nothing, but we're also full of surprises. Number 3, final one. Life is like juggling. Some days you're the juggler, some days you're the ball. Okay, the reason I mentioned quotes in progress is because I'm still in progress, like most of us. If we had all figured ourselves out, we wouldn't have a reason to get up. I wake up, I make goals, and then I have to improvise because nothing really goes according to plan anymore. So as you start your careers, think less about what you want to do and why you want to do it. Because even if plans fail at that point, you know why you want to do it, and there are other ways to get there. And then you can ask yourself, how can I achieve that goal, the thing I want, and why I want it in the least amount of steps possible? So after graduation, when you've had your party and you've settled down, you wake up one morning and no longer have a class to go to, open up your laptop or your phone and start making a list. You can do it on my website if you want, it's up to you. And make 2 columns. Start writing down things in these 2 columns. What I love and what I fear. This list, when you're done with it, it might take a couple hours. You might have to be really honest with yourself to get the right list. But this list is your future. Everything in that fear column is who you are today. And everything in that love column is what you want and who you will become tomorrow. And your job is to figure out how you're going to move everything from the fear column to the love column. So go out there, fall in love with your fears, because if fear is a superpower, then love must be the force that keeps you away from the dark side, so that you use these powers for good. Thank you, congratulations, and may the force be with you.